indie rock scene here, the underground music scene here in New Jersey. And when I look at it, everything that I did during that time period, which was probably from like the very early 90s to like 2000 is when I kind of at least finished making music and being involved, like really actively involved in the scene. All those things were the foundation for business for me. And, at the time, I didn't think about it like that. But when I then got really involved into developing business and starting my first business, which was Gray Sky Films, my video production company, like every thing that I leaned on to get that going, I pulled from being involved in punk rock and hardcore. Like that, because I went to school for filmmaking. I didn't go to school for business. I feel like I always say I kind of accidentally became a business owner. Like wanted to be a filmmaker, wanted to go make movies and all that. Thought about, well, the entry point into that would be to make commercials and ultimately even music videos. So if I spend time doing that, that'll get me to making more films. And ultimately that course kind of then propelled into like, well, I'll make a business and that'll help do that. And then still get me into making movies. But everything was like sort of like accidental in the sense of like, well, I'll just do it. And that's kind of how like being in the bands, like back then it's like, well, oh, I'm just going to start a band. And where are we going to play? We're going to rent out this Legion Hall. We're going to go play at in this friend's living room or their backyard. And we're going to invite all other friends' bands to play. And it just kind of grows from that, well, I don't know. We want to put out music. Okay. We're going to write music. We're going to record it. We're going to pay for it. We're going to put it out ourselves. We're going to put it out on a 45, or we're going to make our own demo tapes in our bedroom and massively dub them, like make copies, everything, make our own merch. You do it all then because you're like, well, no one else is going to do it for you. So if you want it to happen, you've got to do it yourself, DIY. But all that stuff, then when I got to the end of it and then I started doing a business, I'm like, wait a second. This is like exactly the same thing I just did with being in a band, except that in this side, it's called having a business, but it's really all the same stuff. Because, when you look at it, and I did little business, I had my own little distro where I would sell other bands' records and I'd set up, it was like being at a show back in the day was like almost like a mini flea market. It was like a show, and then there'd be just tables all around where the bands are selling their merch, but then you had your own distribution. You could sell other people's merch and records from all across the country. It was basically an entire system of things put together by kids. I mean, it really was a gigantic, at the time, it was funny, because we were all kids. I mean, just a kid network of bands, music, arts, culture, small businesses, record labels. If you had a credit card, guess what? You could have a record label. It's like, yeah, I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what it was like.
Yeah. And what's interesting though is, of course, yes, you guys were kids and here you were figuring out how to do these different marketing strategies that people are taught in college and elsewhere. And at the same time, it makes a lot of sense because that's who you were probably marketing to, or the same people, the same demographic as yourselves.
Yeah.
So you kind of figured it out based on, well, here's what we like. Here's what draws us to that band and the other band. So let's try to figure out how to do that for ourselves, for our band, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just had this conversation with a colleague of mine yesterday and we were talking about it. I mean, we even did things like, bands would get together. Like if you were friends with a band, like not only would you play shows together and try to be like, if you got booked on a bunch of shows, you would say, hey, you need any more bands? We're friends with these guys. These guys are great. And then be like, okay, yeah. And you'd be helping each other out to like play shows and promote each other. But then you'd also be like, hey, we have a new song. You got a new song. Why don't we do this? Let's put out a split 7-inch together. So one band would be on side A and the other band would be on side B. And then you just go right ahead and put out a 7-inch, and you'd split the cost. And now all of a sudden you have music to sell at shows. And that happened all the time. And, but it's that mentality, that sort of like that DIY, I'm going to do it ourselves. Really. We're not waiting for anybody else to help us in that way. We're going to network. So these are the things you begin to learn. And this is where, the presentation you saw at Empowered Podcasting is rooted on that. And that's why we say everything I learned came from that, because when I think about the principles and the foundation of what I was taught, by doing all that, and how I applied it to business, to me, is like, can be broken down into like these like 5 core principles, is how I talk about it with everybody. Because what I learned there isn't groundbreaking in the sense of like, well, all businesses know this, but sometimes people need a little bit of a reframe, right? How they see
Mm,
things, how they think about things, because we're human beings and we tend to overthink things. We get stuck in our own heads and we start amplifying things. But when you just break it down to, well, let's break it down into its simplest, most organic, basic form. When you do that, it's like, oh, wait a second. I am totally like getting in
mhm.
my own way. I'm completely overthinking this. And that's why I go around and when I talk to especially creative professionals and other business owners and other professionals, but I find content creators to be the most open to having this sort of mindset shift, because I feel like it's a nice parallel to saying, hey, if you market yourself like how a band does it, this is a way to sort of tap into like maybe the things that you're getting stuck on and getting hung up
Mm,
on. And so that's why I kind of
yeah.
do this whole like 5 core principles type thing.
Awesome. And we'll dig into those as
Mm-hmm.
well. And yeah, I mean, look, you just made a point about sometimes we need help reframing a situation or a perspective or whatever it is. And you and I have done that for each other multiple
Yeah.
times over the years, right? There are
Yep.
times where you'll reach out to me, Mark, have you thought about this? And I'll either be like, no, I never did think of that, or I'll be like, yeah, I knew about that, but I forgot I should be doing it. I tell other people to do it and I don't.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get that, especially from somebody who's got the experience. So I'm with you there. And the other thing that I just wanted before we move into some
Yeah.
of this stuff that you had said earlier about accidentally falling into business,
Yeah.
right? Because of the creative endeavors. And these days, I feel like it's almost reversing. I feel like there are so many creatives out there that are making content for the love of making content and then realizing, "Oh wow, this could be a business," or "Oh wow, I've
Right.
somehow fallen into a business," and then they want more help. So I find that interesting that it used to be one way and I feel like I'm seeing a shift now to the other.
Yeah, it usually becomes like you're doing something, right? And all of a sudden somebody else sees it and they go, "Oh, could you do that for me?" And you're like,
Mhm.
"Sure, I'll help you out." And so you do
Yeah.
it and you go, and then maybe you get asked by somebody else and you're like, "Wait a second. Hold on." Like, I can actually I think I could charge for this. I think I could turn this into a service. Like,
Mhm.
and that's the thing. That's usually that light bulb that goes off. And it's that transition from doing something for fun because you absolutely love it, not that you don't love a business, but there's this definite shift there, between
Mhm.
doing something for hobby, for fun, and then doing it now as a service that you're going to get hired for to do and turn it into a business. That's the shift. And that transition is not easy if you've never done it before. I mean, it just isn't. And you can start off slow and all that and learn a lot, but it's when things start growing and things that start going to the next level is where people trip up and get stuck. And that's where too you see where some people raise up their hands and go, "Forget it. No, I'm done. I just no, I don't want to do this." To like, I really want to grow, but I'm sort of stuck at this one level and I just can't figure out how to get to the next notch and then the notch after that. Like, and those are the places where, I can come in, and that's the things that I do where I can provide help. I did this for 25 years and I made all the mistakes. I'm still making mistakes, but I've made those
We all
mistakes.
do.
I
Yeah.
learned from them, and I could always tell people like, listen, I can help you shorten that gap, that time, because I made all those mistakes. I know exactly what you're going through, and let me share the experience I went through, and that may help unlock some of the challenges that you're facing.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay,
Mm.
so then let's dig into some of this
Mm.
because I know that it will
Yeah,
address a lot of these different challenges. So
sure.
let's when I saw your presentation, you mentioned the importance of defining your brand identity.
Yes.
Can you share some tips on how new creatives and entrepreneurs for that matter can discover and solidify that brand identity?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of uh it's basically the thing I say is the first part of like when you break it down into the 5 core pillars of how to market yourself like a band type of thing. But yeah, really understanding like who you are. What is your brand identity? And for me, that always comes down to it's a few things, right? Because think people when people hear the word brand, right away they think of like the logo, the mark. Like yeah, having a cool logo is definitely it's part of it, but it's part of it. It's not the whole story. That's part of the visual aspect of your brand. But let's think about
let let me
the
stop you
internal.
real quick.
Yeah.
Let me stop you real quick
Hmm.
because that's something I know when I started my business, when I started Ironic Media, the logo was such a thing in my
Right.
head, right? And fast forward now, almost 5 years into it, and I couldn't tell you, pardon me, I couldn't tell you how, if any people that follow me really would identify with my logo these days,
Right.
right? Because social media these days, it's more about your face. It's about the person
The
behind
human.
the logo,
Yeah.
right?
Right. The
Do you agree
human.
with that?
I absolutely agree with that. I think that people want, and there's a whole other thing, but I mean, I run a virtual mini con every year called Humanize Your Brand because it's about the human connection. If there's one thing social media has done really well, which is, the importance of the human side, of connecting with people via their face, having talked to them, all that. And so when we talk about like your brand, the things that really make up your brand are your core values. That's the first thing. What are your values as a human being? I mean, really, just that.
Hmm.
What are your values as a human? Like, because that stuff is going to translate into your business. How you treat people, how you want to be treated, how you talk to people, the experience you want, the level of all those things. That is part of your core values. What are the things most important to you? That's your core values. That goes into your brand. Number two, what's the mission? Well, I know we all mission statement, all this, but like honestly, why is it that you love doing what you do? What's the mission? I want to create because I want to entertain people. I want to bring joy. I want to spread the information of this. I want to help answer questions. I have this experience. I want to share it with the world because I'm hoping by me sharing that, other people are going to learn. Whatever your mission is, like have the mission, right? What it's like, planes, trains, and automobiles. When you have a story, have a point. When you tell a story, have a point. Well,
Hmm.
what's the point of what it is that you're doing? There has to be a point to it. And that leads me into what's your unique value proposition or what's your unique selling proposition, however you want to say it. But once again, what's the point of doing what you do? What makes you unique? What makes you stand out? What makes you a little different than somebody else? And that could be really so many things, but this is why understanding what your core values are and what your mission is, those are the things that are going to help you stand out in, a blue ocean, right? Or a red ocean, actually, of like
Hmm.
everybody doing the same
Right.
thing, but what makes you the blue ocean? What makes you the little unicorn in a way? What gives you that little glint in the eye that like, ooh, that looks different or unique or some, whatever that is. And then your story. I think a lot of people really neglect their own
Mm.
experience and their personal story when they're thinking of this. Like I just told you a little bit of my story and my background of like punk, hardcore, all that stuff. But like, it's a big part of my story. Growing up and seeing Star Wars in 1977 is a huge part of my story. Like, there's so many things like that that are made me who I am. Like the first time I ever bought a record, which was Kiss Destroyer. Like those things, like those little moments have shaped me in my story. And so those are the things that people need to remember when you're thinking about your brand. Like, what is your story? And then ultimately, image. Like
Mm.
all that goes along and then goes into the image. So when you think of a band, think of any band, any artist you follow, any musician, any band, punk, country, rock, rap, ska, whatever, I don't care. Think about it and just look at it and look at what they're doing. Like understand, why do you like them? Why do I like their music? Yeah, it's a good catchy tune, but why? you
Hmm.
know Start thinking, ask those questions, and those are the things that will help you then build your brand. Because if you like them, ask why you like them, and then start looking at it and looking at it from a different lens. And then you go, oh, now I see why this works, and then you can apply that to yourself.
Mm. Yeah, good stuff there. And yeah, I agree with you that people are reluctant to share their stories. They think it's irrelevant to whatever their message is. And
Yeah.
I'm with you. It makes you more relatable. And let's not forget, it's how human beings learn the most
Yeah.
effectively is by storytelling, is from storytelling. So that's a big one for me too. And I also don't want to brush past the first thing you said about really knowing and understanding your core values. Because again, I feel like that's a throwaway for people. They don't really think about it, connect with it, don't care. They're
Mhm.
focused on the mission statements, the goals, the UVPs, whatever. But those core values, I know I've made that mistake where I don't really think about, well, what's important to me? What drives me? And does that connect with my business? Is that something that I want to translate into my business? And 9 times out of 10, yes, of course, I want
Yeah.
it to be a reflection of me.
Yeah, it absolutely should be. I mean, your business is an extension of you. It's
Mm-hmm.
organic. It was born out of you and your mind and your experience. So it only makes sense that your core values, and that's the thing. And your core, all these things is also going to weigh upon who you want to work with, why you want to work with them. Because these will be the things that will set up like, hey, is this client a fit for me or not? Right? Do
Yeah.
they align with me and my core values? Like all those things. So later on down the line, when you're like, in business development and sales, and how do I make my marketing message, and who am I trying to attract in my target market, it all comes back to this. All comes
Yeah.
back to this.
Yeah. So then let's, on this idea
Mm-hmm.
of core principles, I think from what I remember of your presentation, I think you talked a lot about building an engaged audience
Mm-hmm.
and how crucial that is.
Yeah, very crucial.
And yeah, especially as creators, that's huge for us, is to really have
Mm-hmm.
that audience that actually interacts with us and
Yeah.
leaves comments and
Yeah.
listens or watches that podcast or YouTube video. So what strategies have you found most effective in creating and maintaining a
Mm.
dedicated community around a brand or a podcast or a
Sure.
YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, really, it always comes down to the very first thing you have to realize is you have to understand who your audience is. Like, understand your audience, and the best way to do that is to talk to them. You know, like ideally, like we all start off with, well, who is the ideal audience? Like, and you kind of look at yourself. Well, if it was me, I would like this and this and this, and you start off with that. But like, think about like who your ideal audience is. But you want to talk to them because this is how now you're going to begin to get the feedback to like further refine who your target audience is and what that community wants from you. What are the things that are most important to them? Understanding that, like, what are the things that are most important to them when it comes to, okay, so if we're talking about a podcast, like, my show, Song Swap Showdown, I do with Amanda, is like, we're a music podcast. We talk about music. Like, that's it. So our audience is people who enjoy music. And not only music, but they also enjoy music discussions and critiques and reactions and reviews. And so, our audience tends to be, as I've seen it now, and the more and more I've talked to people, they seem to be in their mid 20s all the way up into like their later 50s. That is like how wide our audience is. But when I look at the people I talk to and the people who've heard the show and why they like the show and all that, that's what I've been able to learn. But so you want to be able to start having these conversations. And so your conversations can happen on your show, during your show. Like right now, we're doing a live stream. Like Song Swap Showdown is a live stream we do every week. So through that live stream, we're literally having active conversations with our community right then and there. Post that, we are then on a Facebook group, and we have a Facebook group where we can interact with people on a Facebook page. I engage with people on our Twitter account and I ask questions through that. We have an email list that we email people regularly through. We now have a Patreon account where we're starting to get some people on that and we're interacting with people on those. So these are just some of the small things that you can do. But the idea is that you're talking to them. You're talking to them on social media. You always want to be where your audience is, right? Where is your community hanging out? That's where you ultimately need to be at the end of the day. And those are like really the simplest things that you could do is like just be where they're at, meet them where they're at and show up and be present and talk to them. Don't sell them stuff. Don't even push your show down their throat or your project or your business. Like nobody cares about that stuff right now. You have to build trust and you have to get them to care. So how do you do that? Well, you have conversations, be active in the community, be an active participant, be helpful, create connections and create and listen. Listen, see what's going on. What are the conversations about? And be a contributor into those communities. And that is ultimately then how you'll build trust. And ultimately, people will be interested now in what you're doing. and go, oh, what do you do? Oh, I do a podcast, or I have this XYZ company, or I perform this kinds of service. Oh, cool. That's great. Cause I always see you interacting and having conversations and all that. And that's from like being involved. If once you have your community, you want to be able to keep them active, keep them engaged. Like, and this could be a smatter wherever you are, whatever you're doing. But think about hosting like a networking event, in person or virtual. Doesn't need to be any more reason than, hey, I want to get together and we just want to talk and share experiences, or talk about our love of music, or whatever it is, books, movies. It doesn't, whatever it is. Think about maybe hosting like roundtable discussions, or doing like a quick presentation on something. Offer educational resources, access to information, free access to information, by the way, no charging, just offer the access to it, and like guides, tips, ebooks, additional content, and basically all they have to give you is an email address, because now we're going to be list building. So everything's always about like list building, like name and email address, but they can be tools, quizzes, offer to sign up for a newsletter. What do they get, right? If they sign up for a newsletter, what are they going to get? I don't know. Offer incentives, access to more information, bonus, whatever it is that relates to like your business, your content. Think about doing giveaways. People love free stuff. Incentivize them. Hey, if you're going to take pictures with my hat, please, I'll send you a free hat. Just take some pictures and post it on your, like, there's a lot of different things you could do, but this is where it goes back to that punk rock stuff. Like, start thinking about ways that you can involve your community. Doesn't cost a lot of money. A lot of times it's just the idea and then the asking of it. And you're going to try different things, and some things may bomb and some things may be great, but you got to try it to do it. And so there's a lot of ways to kind of get involved with people. But the thing is, you always want to be building that list. And this is the list. Your list is going to be gold. So you're on borrowed platforms.
Yeah, you are.
Every platform you're on is a borrowed platform, except for your email list. That is yours. And you want to be able to get as much information from those borrowed platforms as you can. And the way to do that is to offer as much free advice, whatever it is that you can, to get people to say, wow, yeah, I really like that. That resonates with me. Yes, I'm happy to give you my email address and my name, And so always be thinking about things like that. But once again, this is your community. Talk to them, be part of it, be active, Don't
Agreed.
be like, I got to charge for everything. Like, there's a time and place to charge for things, but give more away for free than you're charging right now. I know it sounds weird to say, because we're in business and all that, and you want to monetize, but honestly, the more you give away and the more you share, the more you are important into somebody's life, the more then later they're going to want to say, you know what, I really want to support what you're doing. I'm happy to join your Patreon. I'm happy to pay for your services. I'm happy to refer you out to all my friends, like whatever.
Yeah. And, creating by giving things away, like you're saying, giving away free information, value, tips, all the things that you would do if people pay you for it.
Right.
What that's doing, A, it's building trust, and B, you're actually creating more questions and more, I don't want to call it confusion, but you've helped them solve a particular problem, and with every problem solved, new ones arise, right? So sure, you might be giving them a little something, getting them on their path, but then as they go down that path, they're going to stop at another obstacle, and you're going to have that answer. And more than likely, then they're going to come to you and they're going to ask you, hey, I'm stuck here now. What do I do? And that can open a door to business.
Exactly. It's, it's an old adage, and it's something that I always remember. It's always serving versus selling. Serve first, sell later. By serving, you will eventually have the quote unquote sale will come in some shape or form. It will be there for sure. So if you come at a place like that first, the other stuff will happen later on. The business side of things will happen. Once again, I come back to any band, any artist, anybody you follow, anybody you buy music from. Spend some time actually looking at it from a different lens, not so much as a fan, but put on your business hat, your business goggles, and look at it from that. And you'll start to see the things that we're talking about here. You're going to see them materialize in one way or the other. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is what Chris was talking about. Oh, I see this now. Like, look at it from a business aspect, not so much from, hey, I just love this guy's music or this person's music, whatever it is. Don't look at it like that. Spend some time looking at it from a business marketing perspective.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I have to share one other point before we move into a
Yeah,
different
yeah,
direction, because this was a point I believe I shared on your show.
yeah.
Because when I talk to creators about engaging with their communities, if they want to build it, one of the common things I'll hear from them is, well, but I only have X number of people. And yeah, they engage with me, but I'm talking to the same people.
Right.
And my answer to that is well, then continue to focus and engage with those people and show them your gratitude, get feedback from those people. Clearly they're passionate enough about what you're putting out there that they're continuing to engage. And what I had said on your show is something I learned from next week's guest, actually, on
Mm-hmm.
the Minvo Procast, which was that analogy of if you're hosting a party and you're inviting people to this party, they come to the party and they come talking to you at the party. Hey, Chris, great party. I'm really enjoying it and love the food, love the drink selection. This is awesome. But the whole time you're just looking over their
Yeah.
shoulder to see who's coming into the
Yeah.
door,
Ooh.
through the door next.
Yeah.
And then you're just insulting those people that actually took the time to come and be a part of your party.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to just engage with those that are there, figure out what's working for them and double down on that, and your
Yeah.
community will grow. It took me 2 years to grow the community that you and
Yeah.
I are a part of now. Right. So it is a slow burn sometimes, but the key is to keep engaging.
Yeah. Everybody. Let me change. Let me rephrase that because I don't want to lump everybody together. I would say
Yeah.
there are some people out there, and I understand it's it's not fast. There's no quick path to quote unquote success out there. Yes, there's systems. Yes, there's processes that will help you streamline some of the things that will do it and speed up the time in the sense of less time to figure out how to do something. This system and process will save you that time. And that to me that's saving you time to do more working on your business type of thing. But there is no quick way, no matter what anybody tells you, to building a solid community that trusts you. There is not. It doesn't exist. And anybody that tells you it does exist is full of it. Because
Yeah, because
I
even
will
if you
tell you,
pay for it, then
yeah,
they're not
yeah,
really a community at that
no.
point, even if you pay
All
for it.
all the most successful YouTubers, I'm just gonna use YouTube, they will all tell you, ask them how long it took for them to grow. You see them now with their like 500,000 to 1 million, 2 million subscribers, monetize, make it, you know how it took them years to do this. Like bands, everybody goes, "Oh my god, this new band that's out there, like they're huge." Right, cool. That song finally broke and you heard it and great and they're getting all this accolades and getting all these things. But honestly, that band didn't just start in 2024. That band maybe started in 2015 or 2010 and just now they're getting the exposure and the props because they kept at it. They showed up. They built the fan base. Like they put out songs. Like they got better. So just a word of I don't want to. It's not. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on it because it's actually positive. But like, there's just no quick way of doing it. Like it does require patience, and this is why they say most small businesses, 1 out of 10 only make it because the process weeds out.
Yeah.
It just does because it takes time to do. That's all. It takes the time. You got to be patient. You got to be in for it. You got to be ready to pivot, be flexible, move, shift, and listen. Listen, ask questions and listen because you will find out what you need to do if you just shut up, ask the questions, and listen.
Agreed. And I've heard you say this before. I think you said it during that presentation as well, that
Yeah.
content is king. And that's one we've heard before from
Yeah.
others as well. How can creators, pardon me, how can creators ensure that their content remains fresh, it remains engaging over a period of time?
Yeah, great question. And it does, once again, kind of dovetail into a lot of what we're talking about because if you are listening to your audience, you're going to know exactly what kind of content to be creating. Like, yes, there's stuff we are passionate about and we want to create, and you can do that. Like, I'm not saying don't not create content you want to create, but if you are really looking for an audience to like go out, really help you and keep them engaged, you have to do the things that they want to hear from you. So maybe there are some more topics that they zero in on more than others. Like Song Swap Showdown. I mean, God, we're like over 100 episodes on that show, and I can look and see which content, which episodes have done better. And okay, so those are the episodes that, not that I'm going to do now every single episode like that, but now I know at least, well, maybe I should be putting more song discussions of that into rotation. Like on our YouTube channel, listen, it is what it is. People love when Amanda talks about metal. Like they just do. Amanda has fun with it because it's not what she likes and she gives honest opinions on it. Whatever the audience thinks is BS or not, but it is what it is, and she is being authentic and you get her real reaction to it. And time over time, any videos that we have that Amanda talks about metal versus ones where I'm talking or we're talking about something else, those are the videos that perform the best because that's what our audience likes. They are entertained by it. They think it's funny. Some people just like having the combative comments in there because that becomes a whole show in itself. But like, it is what it is. But the thing is, the audience likes that, and our community, and that community likes it. So we should be, not every video is going to be metal, but maybe we'll be doing more videos that have Amanda reacting to metal songs. So you really have to think about your audience and what it is that they're looking to engage with you on, and from a business level, from a content creation standpoint, whatever it is. So, and also ensuring that the value driven piece of it, right? The content provides value to them. Value can be entertaining, it can be educational, informative, whatever it is, but that the value in that piece of content, it's again relates to what your target audience wants. And that's the stuff that if you want to create compelling content, and this is why we say content is king, it's like you're creating the right kind of content for your audience. And sometimes it takes a lot of tries to see what do they like, and so you really got to listen to what they like the most from what you're doing, and then deliver more of that.
Agreed. And by the way, speaking of engaging and connecting with your audience, a shout out to a few people who are listening and watching live right now. Ashley, DR, Alex, welcome. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm only calling them out because they're the ones active over on the YouTube chat. So if you are watching live and want to shout out, by all means, go ahead and participate in that chat.
Heck
and
yeah.
Chris, there was something here that you mentioned the example of Amanda and her dislike for metal and how that your audience really seems to like it. And I would almost challenge that they don't like it, and that's what's getting them to engage. Sometimes doing the things that they don't like will cause a lot of engagement. So it's not that I'm necessarily encouraging people to go about it all the time and do the opposite of what your audience likes. And in a case like yours, where the co-host has a big difference of opinion than the other co-host, that can create a lot of controversy with an audience. And I mean, let's be real, that's what you want, especially on social media.
Well, you want the engagement, right? And yeah, it's not always going to be, when it comes to something like that, like we're talking about music, right? And if there's one thing that divides people more, people are very passionate about music and what they like. And when you strike a nerve, I tend to think metal fans in particular, metal and rock fans, and I am one of them, but we get a little precious about our music, and when somebody doesn't like it, it's like, oh my God, how could you not like, it's funny for me because it's like, I've gotten into those debates with my friends, like, how do you not like this song? This guy's a ripper of a guitar player, but it's great when she does it because it's like throwing a grenade in like the middle, like something like that, and it just like, and it's funny, it's entertaining, and for some people, do they go too far? Of course they do, but either way, it's engagement and it is entertaining all around to read those comments. And the thing is, you gotta just do things, put it out there, try it. And this is the punk rock side of things. Listen, not every song you're right is gonna be great. Most of them are gonna be stinkers, but some of them are gonna be great. And same thing with the content. Some things you do are gonna be great, and everybody's gonna love it. And some things you do are not gonna be great, and it's gonna be divisive, but hey, you did it and you own up to it. And either way, it's creating content. Somebody out there is going to either way, it's going to get a reaction, as long as you're not hurting anybody or doing anything super hateful or anything like, like you're victimized and nothing crazy like that, like keep it on a level, but also don't be afraid to try things. If people don't like it, they don't like it. Like, big deal. Move on, learn from it and move on. Why didn't they like it? And with the Amanda stuff, it's like, Well, it's not really she's doing anything wrong. She's just giving her opinion about music, and some people are just getting, hurt feelings over the fact that they don't like baby metal. She doesn't like baby metal. Like, okay, sorry, she's one out of a million other the people that listen to baby metal that doesn't get it. So good, maybe you'll
Yeah.
teach her something. I don't know.
All right. Well, there's also another side, right? You talk about positive disruption
I
as
do.
well. So, can you give us an example and maybe explain a little bit what is that? What's
Yeah,
positive disruption and how
yeah,
have you used it with
right.
your audience?
So I say positive disruption because going back to things, I'm a big PMA, positive mental attitude type of person. I'm, the bad brains, not that the bad brains invented PMA, positive mental attitude, but from a punk rock perspective, they were the first to really preach about that. But I mean, that goes all the way back from like, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill,
Mhm.
positive mental attitude. Like that's the big secret in life is to have a positive mental attitude about things. And so with positive disruption, it's really a real term is called pattern disrupt, right? It's
Yep.
something that I learned actually through like taking Sandler sales classes, all that. And I said, well, okay, I love that, and I've always employed that. And so what's my little spin on it? Well, I'm a big positive mental attitude person, but I'm also into disrupting things because there's nothing wrong with having some disruption. So let me match them together. I go positive disruption. So really it's about positively, how can you positively impact somebody's life without, we're not doing them harm, but we want to disrupt it enough so that way we become more memorable, we stay more
Mhm.
top of mind with that person in their life. So it could be involving whether it's a person or your audience by, we just want to give them a break, give them a little refreshing break from their usual patterns of things. So that could be anything in the way of dropping some additional content, maybe some personalized messages, like, you know, think about maybe some of the top people that you interact with on, maybe Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever. And, if they're interacting with your content, send them a personalized video or personalized audio. Hey, just want to thank you so much for following us. Really appreciate your support of yours. Call them out on your show. Hey, I just really want to take a quick moment to thank these people who have just been very instrumental. They've been here with us since day one of this show, and I just want to recognize them. Blah 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 blah. Those little bits,
Mhm.
it positively disrupts their life, but you show the acknowledgement. It could be writing a handwritten letter, sending someone a piece of merch. I mean, from a business side, I've had local business people I've done business with, owning a business. During the summertime, I'd show up with ice cream sandwiches for the whole, like, hey guys, here's some ice cream sandwiches for everybody. I just got them at the Dover Dairy, and here, oh my god, like
Mm.
I've sent pizza for lunch to people, like showing up with bagels for breakfast, like little things, like whether your
Yeah.
business, like those little, that's a positive disruption. Um, you know,
I have a good example for you.
yeah,
I attended last January. I attended a conference, Podfest, a podcaster
yeah,
conference, and there were a handful of us, maybe 8 to 10 of us, that were all hanging around. It was right around lunchtime. I was planning on going to a lunch with a couple of people, and I invited this group to come join us. And we went and sat down. And at the end of lunch, I just decided, what the heck? I just wanted to be kind and pay for everyone's lunch. So I just paid for everyone's lunch, right?
boom,
And not thinking anything of it. But fast forward to this conference that you spoke at, my conference that
yeah,
I put together with the help of others. And almost every one of those people that I took to lunch at the other conference ended up coming to this conference,
right,
right? And there was no, there was nothing about that. We didn't talk about that at this conference. They didn't tell me, Mark, I'm coming because you bought me lunch. But it opened a door and it created a connection that I then nurtured between January and this past
right,
June. And then here we were. I got
yeah,
essentially about 10 customers, quote unquote, that attended that
right.
conference. So those little things do go a long way.
They really do. I mean, it can even be random, random acts of positive disruption. Like you're standing in line for coffee. I don't know, pay for the person's coffee in front of you. I don't know. They're strange, but hey, sometimes it's the little things that like can change the course of somebody's life
Yeah.
in that day. Maybe they're having a really horrible day. Maybe they just had a fight with a significant other, or their kids are driving them crazy, or I mean, your boss, whatever. They just got a bad email, maybe some bad news about something in their life. And a random act of things like that, positive disruption, can really go a long way. And it doesn't have to be just towards clients and your audience, but yeah, it can be to a possible stranger. But think about things like that. We get so locked in our like day and our routine. I'm guilty. We all are, because we're creatures of habit and we're humans. But when you get that little thing, it goes a long way. Like
Yeah.
it just really does. Like, think outside the box. Doesn't have to be crazy. Doesn't need to be expensive. You don't have to spend a fortune. It's little tiny things. Just we were talked about it on Song Swap Showdown yesterday, like Suno.ai, right? It's you can write music. I have been having a great time creating happy birthday songs for people and just sending them, hey, here's a happy birthday song I created for you. And I get back like, oh my God, this is so great. Like, 'cause they'll say their name and little simple things like that. I would do videos of me like singing happy birthday with my ukulele for 30 seconds and send people like little bits. That stuff goes
Yeah.
a long way. And that is a positive disruption. Even the thing that you guys did at Empowered Podcasting, I thought was great, which was the little yearbook kind of style of like, hey, you guys had the program, but in it was like, sign my yearbook. And like, to me, that was so cool. That was a positive disruption thing, because not everybody expects that kind of stuff to
Mhm.
happen at conferences, especially the large ones, which are, I
Yeah.
know they're very big and massive, but I think for a smaller, like very intimate conference that you had, not that it was that small, but it was nice and intimate, but it would create a great way for conversation. But that, to me, that was a good positive disruption to what
Mhm.
everybody expects to happen at conferences most of the time.
Hey, by the way, shout out to Joe of Digital 7 Studios, who is in the chat as well,
Hey,
checking
I know
in.
Joe. Joe, what's up, bud?
Oh, okay, good. Very cool. All
Yeah.
right, so we got some of Chris's fans here today,
Yeah.
which is cool. All right, awesome. All right, so Chris, we've got about 10 minutes, and I want to make sure we try to get to everything possible today so that people can get a lot of this awesome info. What is your take on collaboration?
Mm.
As far as, maybe you're a
Mm-hmm.
YouTuber, maybe you're a podcaster, and I know of a lot of creators that tend to keep to
Mm.
themselves, don't want to
Yeah.
work with the competition, quote unquote.
The
So what
lone
are your
wolf.
thoughts around that?
The
Yeah.
lone wolf creator, as I like to say. Yeah, I get that. Doesn't play well with others, but sometimes too, and I get it. Like a lot of creators tend to be a little bit more introverted and all that, and it could be um stifling sometimes to reach out like that. Like, I'm in my bubble and I create here in my silo, and that's where my happy, safe place is. But collaboration is essential. Once again, I'm gonna keep coming back to it. Look at the favorite band, artist, musician, whatever that you follow, and you're gonna see them collaborate with other artists. Anytime you hear a song, hey, this guest singer came and sang on our new track. Great, that's a collaboration. Why? You just help each other out to expose each other to different audiences. Like this band Spirit Box that I love. They're a metalcore band, and they did a collaboration with Megan Thee Stallion, and you didn't think the two things would work well, and they did it. And what was exciting about that is Megan Thee Stallion was like, "Hey, I like this band. Like, I like Spirit Box. Cool. Let me do this. I'm gonna have my audience, experience who Spirit Box is, who may not actively go seek them out, by having them do a remix of one of my songs, and vice versa. Spirit Box fans are gonna discover Megan Thee Stallion's music. That's an amazing collaboration. Mark and we just collaborated yesterday. You sat in for 2 weeks being a guest host on Song Swap Showdown. So maybe there was people in our audience who didn't know who you were, hadn't heard you. I mean, I know you've been on prior shows, but not everybody listens to every single show. So maybe people got exposed to who you are, what you do, what you're part of, and vice versa. People in your audience who maybe have never heard Song Swap Showdown before discovered Song Swap Showdown, and maybe now they're going to want to listen to our show.
Yep.
So collaboration to me is essential for the growth of any business, any creator, anything that you're doing. Collaborating on an event. I just did this back in May. I collaborated with 5 other people to do a networking event in Morristown at the Laundromat. It was a little speakeasy bar here in Morristown. We had 250 people show up. Why? Because 5 of us all got together and we invited everybody in our network to come, and those people invited people, and we had a really great networking event where everybody, there was so many new faces that we all got to meet and interact with and met new people, and that was the point. And that was the point of collaborating like that. Instead of me just inviting my network, like, no, let's 5 of us get together and invite our networks to all come to this networking event. And it was great. But that's the level, and start thinking about, does it need to be a big networking event? It could be as simple as, hey, Mark, can you come on my show? Let's do a show together. It's like,
Yeah, right.
or, maybe you cross post something. Hey, you know what? I want to show my support for what Mark's doing because we're friends. So I'm going to share what he's doing into my community, put it out on my email list, and vice versa. And now we're helping each other out. So these are the things of like building communities together, sharing each other. I mentioned it before with like bands, right? We all helped each other out. Hey, we're friends with these bands. Hey, can they play the show that you just, yeah, sure, we need an extra band. Same thing. Oh, we both want to get music out. We both don't have enough money, but if we split the cost, we can actually put out a record together. One band's on side A, the other band's on side B. Now we both have a record to go sell.
Yeah.
And we're not waiting, or a
Uh-huh.
cassette or a CD. We did that too, split CDs, like 3 songs from this band, 2 songs from that band, and now we both have something to sell. So that's the kind of mentality you want to go through of doing that. We see it all the time on Instagram Live. Like, hey, I'm going to do an Instagram Live, and before you know it, 4 or 5 people are on Instagram with them, and they're talking, and
Yeah.
that's collaboration. That's collaboration.
Agreed. Totally agree with you there. And you'll also probably, another advantage of collaborating is you'll probably learn a thing or two along the way. I know that anytime
I
I
always do.
am connecting with a collaborator or a creative and we're working on a project, creating some video or what have you, and there's a trick that they do, there's a tool that they use, there's an approach that they take with their content that I hadn't ever noticed or realized or knew before.
Yeah.
And then I can potentially adopt it if it really works well for me too.
Yeah, I always learn so much. I mean, it's that's why you want to do it. There, yeah, techniques, processes, ideas, software, trends, business. I mean, business ideas, marketing ideas. Hey, like you just learn so much from that. So I understand for some, maybe people listening to this, maybe the thought of partnering with somebody or working with somebody could be a little scary, right? I understand. I get it. It's not everybody's can be so outgoing, but I would say deeply consider it. Start with one person, reach out and just ask. And if the thought of asking because you might get rejected is scary, hey, that's a real feeling. But you know what? You have to ask, otherwise you'll never
Yeah.
know. And if they reject, it's okay. And it may not just because it's just because maybe it's a timing thing and maybe it's not right for them now. It's okay. It's okay. Make a list, make a list of 5 people and reach out to them to do a little simple collaboration, or just start off with sharing someone's post, even make it easier. Like, hey, I'm going to reshare this person's post because I like them. I like what they do. They share the same values as me. And, it's all about that. The rising tide raises all ships type of thing. Like that's the idea here. All help each
Mm.
other out. And it's not that when one person goes, we're all going to benefit. It's just that it's being around that kind of energy is where things begin to happen. That stuff flows downstream. One person does really well, that energy does flow downstream. Big
O-
believer in that.
Okay. So then I want to try to get to two more
Yeah, yeah.
questions here. Okay. So first, let's talk about creating memorable experiences.
Mm,
Okay. Because
yeah.
I know that that's a big thing for bands as well. So
100% is.
give us one
Mm,
innovative way that a business or a creative can stage these experiences without having to spend a ton of money, because you know as well
mm,
as I do there are a lot of
yeah.
creatives out there that just don't have or don't want to spend the money.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to use an example of a real time example of you and I both know Mike Ham very well.
Yeah.
I'm part of Radio Garden State. Before all that, when
Well, let's
Mike's,
first though tell a little bit what he's doing, because let's
yes,
give a little
yes, thank you.
background.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you. So Mike Ham is the creator of Greetings from the Garden State, which is a podcast that focuses on the people, the culture of right here in New Jersey, the Garden State. And he started that. He was working in a title agency. He had another program before that called the Morning Spotlight, which was mostly all interviews with real estate folks. He eventually shut that down and transitioned it into Greetings from the Garden State. And very early on, Mike, like anybody else, how do I get more traction? How do I get more people involved? Started just doing little simple networking events at like a brewery. So one of the breweries here in Morristown, he was kind of friendly with the owners and asked, "Hey, would it be okay if I ran some networking events here? And I'm just going to put it under Greetings from the Garden State as a meetup." And literally, it's not like he bought everybody drinks or anything like that. Just come here, meet up, let's talk. And he invited everybody that had to do with the channel, invited even the guests that he had. And before he knew it, would start off as like maybe 20 people showing up, eventually turned into like 100 plus people showing up at these events. Everybody's responsible for their own drinks, their own bar tab, all that. He's just providing like, hey, they said, yes, we can meet here. Let me put it out. And hey, I'm here. If you want to meet some other great people, maybe some people that have been on the show, you can meet them too. And start off as simple as something like that. It doesn't have to be a bar or brewery. Think about the things. This is where having relationships are key. Think about what's in your neighborhood, what's in your town. Could be a public library. Like, could be whatever social club, could be a bar, could be a field. Like I'm a part of a New York group and we have a picnic in Central Park. Like there's no permit. We just meet up and everybody brings a little something to eat and 20 of us get together and we catch up. Like could be that simple. That's one example. Any virtual events, maybe a themed party that aligns with your podcast. As I just said, live events, think about the things that you have access to in your vicinity and utilize those, lean on those. That's the best way that I say to go about it, because staging memorable experience, like just be memorable in that way. Once again, think of any band. Some bands do some very guerrilla stuff, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like I always talk about this one band, Silly Goose from Atlanta. Follow them on Instagram. May not be your cup of tea. They're a rap metal band. I'm not a huge fan of their music, but I love their attitude. I love what they're doing. They literally just did. Their big thing is they just do pop-up shows in like Buc-ee's parking lots and gas station parking lots. And lo and behold, they went to Chicago. They weren't on Lollapalooza. But what did they do? They played in a BP parking lot right after Lollapalooza ended. And yeah, they usually get shut down by the cops, but that was also part of the story. Like, they're not getting arrested. They're just being told, all right, guys, you got to cut it down. And okay, they turn off the power and they're fine, but they film it all. They create a memorable event. They post it on Instagram. 100 people will show up. They're all dancing, have a good time. And yeah, it's part of the fun of like, how long is it going to take before the cops come and shut them down? Like, but that's on that side, but that's creating a memorable experience, right? And even though the band's not huge and on Lollapalooza, well, they just got like thousands upon thousands of views on that reel that now expose people to their music, to what they're doing, and maybe they just gained a whole bunch of new fans to their band. So that's where I want to challenge everybody else to think about. Yeah, do you have to go just set up a pop-up show at a BP parking lot? No, but I want you to think about that attitude. That's the kind of attitude I want people to have when they're talking about trying to put themselves out there. Don't overthink it, and don't always be so safe about it or so precious about it. Just do something. Like if 5 people show up, 5 people show up, because the next time you do it, 15 people will show up and then 30 people will show up. Like, don't worry. It's not about the number. It's about the quantity and it's about doing it.
Yeah. So, wow. Okay. Lots of stuff in that. And first, if you're a creator right now and you heard Chris share and you're saying, yeah, but I'm not a band. I'm not going to go play it at a gas station, play music for people. But you know what? You could set up your podcast somewhere, and lots of big name podcasts do live events. You could go and find a local gas station right by the live event and set up your podcast there. There's nothing stopping you from doing that.
Absolutely not.
Just take what you're hearing and just figure out, how do I adapt this to my content and the creative work that I put out there? And you'll find some answers. And I think also so many of us focus on these strategies that are going to help us, worldwide, nationwide, and we're often using the internet to do those strategies. But really, don't sleep on building your community first locally, and then let that build from there. Let it grow from a local community,
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to be the easiest way to get out there and meet people and introduce them to what you're doing. And then they're going to start connecting with their other friends who have
Yeah.
similar interests that probably live in all parts of the world or all parts of the country. And little by little, that's how you get that slow burn.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
what I want to do, Chris, is I have one more question for you
Mm-hmm.
before we hit it. Just want to see if
Yeah.
where can people connect with you more if they want to get more of this type of info?
Yeah, absolutely. So I always recommend, if people are on Instagram, you can connect with me directly at Chris Vaglio. Yes, I have a Rocket Growth Agency, but connect with me directly at Chris Vaglio. That's V as in Victor, Aglio. That's where I am on Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn the same way, Chris Vaglio. My website is rockitgrowthagency.com. That's ROCKIT, not rocket ship, but like rocket. Rocketgrowthagency.com. And yeah, DM me, because I actually have like a guide that I give out to people. It's my DIY marketing guide for creators that I give out. So happy to send that over to you. If you hit me up, DM me, I'll send you the link. I also have a video, like a little 19-minute video of like this actual presentation I do, the DIY marketing and the 5 core principles. So you could watch that as well. I'm happy to give all this stuff away. I want to give it away. I want people to steal it. Go ahead. Like, if I can help anybody in any way, those are the best ways. So literally DM me, connect with me there, and I'm happy to send you these things that hopefully will help you out.
Notice how Chris encouraged a personal connection over, hey, go check out my website for a free guide, right? It was,
Right.
Yes, I have my website, but come to Instagram, come to LinkedIn, connect with me there. Let me know who you are. Let me know what you're looking for. And, I'll see if I can help you out. Like
Yeah.
that, there's a lot to be said in that approach, because I know generally speaking, hear a lot of people just saying, go to my website, go to this special link to connect with me. But that's a true way to connect. So I appreciate that you
Sure.
said it that way. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And finally, let's leave everyone with one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's really passionate about starting a creative project, whether it's a podcast or a YouTube channel or TikTok, whatever it is. What's that one piece of advice for that project? And maybe they feel a little overwhelmed by all the things and all the challenges that come with it. What's that piece of advice you'd give them?
I think the big piece of advice is, I would say, don't overcomplicate it. Like, in its simplest way, it's an idea, right? Just see it through. Just get started. Take the smallest bit of that today. The hardest part is getting started. Always. Just take the small bit today and do that. Do that one thing. One thing. The simplest thing it could be. Just do that, because then tomorrow you'll do the next one thing. And then the day after that, you'll do the next one thing. And before you know it, you've done one thing every single day. And you add all that up, and before you're like, oh my gosh, I got this going. So simplify it. Don't overcomplicate it. Break it down to its simplest form and just do one thing today. Be good at that one thing today. And tomorrow I'll do the next thing and the next thing after. It's always about 1% better today than I was yesterday. That's it. That's it. Otherwise, you won't do it, and you're going to get psyched out and you're going to overwhelm yourself. And God knows we all have a lot of things going on in our lives. And maybe this is something you've been wanting to do. Maybe you already have a full-time job somewhere else. Maybe you're working on 300 other projects and you're trying to make this happen. I get it. I get it. I get it. I've been in all those scenarios. Just do the one thing today, and that's it. And that is a huge win. Like, I don't care how small it is. It's still a huge win. It needs to be celebrated. Positive mental attitude. Get one thing done today. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the way I would say it.
I love it. And keeping it simple is definitely a big one for me too, that I encourage people to do. I think that, yeah, we tend to overcomplicate things. And the worst part is, and I'm guilty of this on occasion, when I get an idea, I'll often just start to think it through in my head and start to find those reasons why it's not a good idea. And I never give it a chance, as opposed to put it down on paper. That helps make it a little more real, right? And then take a couple of steps to see if it's something that you could accomplish successfully.
Yeah.
But if you're just going to let it ruminate in your head and just live there forever and then just discount it, you never know. And most likely somebody eventually will have taken that idea and ran with it, even if you never told them. Eventually those ideas will pop up with other people too, and they'll take advantage. So take a step and see what you think before you just rule it out.
Yeah, a little bit of a ready, fire, aim mentality for sure. Because as creators, nothing will ever be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. It does not exist. And you'll ruminate on it forever, and that does nobody any good. So just get it out there. Ready, fire, aim. Just get going. Just do it. Refine it on the way.
Chris Vaglio, we have spent a lot of time together over the past couple of weeks, and I've appreciated every moment of it, including today. I like that this is how we're wrapping up that little chapter that we've had, and I know there's many more chapters to come, and we'll definitely have you back on the show as well.
Happy to do it.
Thank you for everything, and best of luck to you, and I'm sure I'll catch you one of these mornings this week.
For sure. Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the space. Thanks everybody for watching, listening today. Thanks everybody. Hopefully we'll watch the replay of this. And if you want to connect with me, happy to connect in any of those places I was talking about. Instagram, LinkedIn, Chris Vaglio. Everybody have an awesome day. Rock it. Just rock it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris. And see everybody again next week. Next week we have Travis Brown as a guest. Travis is a huge social media guy. He's really perfected a lot of elements of social media and really how to create viral content. So we'll get into that and a lot more next week with Travis. Until then, make it a great week, everybody. Take care.